Leaving the military is a new chapter, a shift in identity, and a chance to apply everything you've learned in service to civilian life. You step into a world full of challenges and opportunities where guidance, experience, and connection make all the difference. Digital Recon brings veterans together to share knowledge, build networks, and navigate the transition with confidence, purpose, and support. Welcome back to Digital Recon's next episode here. I'm Brandon Paxton, and I've got the luxury to chat with Jose Ibarra today.
Jose Ibarra, Emmy Award-winning combat veteran and public affairs broadcast journalist with over 20 years of U.S. Army service. Former production director for American Forces Network Bavaria and multimedia producer for the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Also led Army teams in strategic communications across the globe. U.S. Army Fellow at the National Football League. Thomas Jefferson Award recipient and U.S. Army Broadcast Journalist of the Year. Now Executive Communications and Content Lead at Digital Recon. Brandon Paxton, U.S. Army enlisted airborne infantryman, served in the 82nd Airborne Division with 2 combat deployments to Iraq. Brings over 14 years of business leadership experience across sales, marketing, and strategic development in the IT industry, driving U.S. market growth and strategic initiatives at the executive level. Strategic Business Director at Andersen.
One of the fun things here at Digital Recon is obviously we're giving back to the veteran community, but not only is that, we're working together with veterans within Digital Recon. So what better way than to interview one of our own, very own, Jose Ibarra here. Jose is also a veteran, recently out. I'll let him talk a little bit more about that, but he's got quite a bit of experience. He's an Emmy-winning multimedia producer, actually. So this is the kind of people we're working with, which is really awesome. I don't think I've ever actually been around anybody who's a winner of an Emmy. So.
Oh, well, thank you, man.
Awesome.
No, it's really great to be here, Brandon. Like, you called me, your team called me, and when I heard about this project, it was at the right time. So you guys are doing some amazing stuff. Exciting, man. I never even heard of anything like Digital Recon. Honestly, so many veteran organizations out there that help veterans all the time, but I don't think there was one specifically meant for like tech folks, you know what I mean? IT.
We're finally doing this. We've been talking about it for a while now, and you're officially on board, and we got things going. What is it? You said 4 days out now?
4 days out. So I'm officially a veteran, 4 days. And yeah, I mean, you know, when I first heard about this, it was like, I didn't know if it was for real. Because like, what are the chances? You guys found me.
Sure.
And, but so far, you know, everything we've been involved with has been amazing. Like, honestly, it means something to me because as a veteran, I see some of the difficulties of transitioning now, and to have Digital Recon have veterans who are willing to just spend their own time to volunteer, that connection of helping another veteran, which is awesome. So yeah, for me, so far, I think I see your vision and I'm excited about it because I know it's just like a baby right now.
Absolutely.
And it's growing, and the level of like professionalism and resources put into it, it's sometimes that's what we need, and the resources are actually helping to make your vision come true, you know. And as like when we first met, I was like, look, I like everything you're doing, but I have to get to know you, you know.
Of course.
And but so far, like, it's been nothing but an amazing, like, it's not just a name, it's not just a sticker, like, hey, we're helping veterans. You literally are helping me because you're helping me with my transition. You found me and you said, hey, this is someone who has what we need. And it's making an impact on me. So Digital Recon is not just for me, it's not just like, you know, a job. It's actually like a mission.
Sure,
you know?
Sure. No, it aligns perfectly. I think, you know, doing things like this is stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? It's one of those things where you know inside in your heart and your gut what you're trying to do. And I think you have to stick with that. And that's what we're doing, because there will be, you know, fumbles, there will be mistakes, but you can't really worry and stress or, you know, be embarrassed about those things. It's got to just understand that, okay, what am I doing at the end of the day? Well, I'm trying to do good things and for the right reasons. And this is why I think we align so well with you and the people that we've already had coming on and talking for Digital Recon, because at the core of it is giving back and doing what we know it's right, taking some of our experiences, and a lot of the people that will speak with Digital Recon, even such as yourself, being a, you know, 20-year plus military person, that's going to bring a lot of great stories, insight, value into this community where people are going to understand that this is going to be a network where they can actually just have, people to lean on and get some great advice and trust it, because this community, obviously, as we know, veterans, it's all built on trust.
Absolutely. And I think one of the cool things about Digital Recon is I'm a techie myself. So I love technology. I love AI. I love to explore what's happening in the whole tech world. And that's what you guys are bringing. There's a lot of great veteran organizations, and I've been, able to kind of talk to some of those folks as well. But what's unique about this place is the tech side, the IT, the new AI stuff that's happening, and it's a bunch of veterans who are into that. So this is where I fit in.
Absolutely,
so two of the best worlds, veterans and tech. So what else do you want, right?
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. It's something that I would have not imagined a couple of years ago, but just naturally getting out and working with various different companies, you start to realize that veterans have really found themselves into technology after their time in service, and that's across all branches. I mean, you'll see, I think it's my perception, but you see a lot even in the cyberspace for whatnot. I don't know why. A bunch of people I served with, if you take it by a percentage base, I think a lot of them gravitate towards the cyber side, but we'll definitely get more into that today. But I think some of the interesting things here are just getting to know you yourself and how that will apply back to the audience. So I guess let's start with a little bit more of your military career and why you decided to join the military.
That's a good question. And, we get asked that question, I think, throughout our career. I have a few different reasons why I joined. First of all, I've always been attracted to just military as a kid. When I was younger, I was in the Young Marines. I thought I was going to be a Marine. As I got older, I wanted to go to school to kind of find my path in the digital arts, graphic design, things like that. At some point, though, when I started, I went to college, and as you know, as you get older, you want your own apartment, you want your car. With all that comes insurance, bills, and then life kind of just grabs a hold of you, right? And college kind of went to the back burner. I did 2 years, and then I ended up getting a job that I was glad I had. I was working at a law firm. I worked at a teleservices company, and they were cool and everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. At that point, I was able to survive. But I knew, like, if I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do, which was graphic design or the arts, and I always had that calling inside of me that I wanted to serve. I had an uncle who served in Vietnam, and I always looked up to him. He was like the hero of the family. And then the other thing too is, being a minority in the United States, my parents, my mom is a third generation Mexican American, and my father, he was literally from Mexico and came over here and met my mother. And I always felt like this country has given me so much. And I never wanted to feel like I owed anybody anything. I want to make sure I walk into any building, into any room with my head up, knowing that I did my part. And honestly, it was the best thing I ever did in my entire life. And it's funny because when I first wanted to join, one day I saw a commercial, and it's in the advertisements do work. The funny thing, it was a Navy commercial, but I saw someone transitioning from a civilian into doing missions, at far out places. And I was like, man, that looks cool. So that sparked my interest, went to the recruiter and took the ASVAT test. And they're like, hey, you can get any job you want. Interestingly enough, I thought I wanted to be a network guy. It's funny how we're back to Digital Recon and IT and stuff, but that's what I really wanted to do. Unfortunately, they promised everything. And when we got to the MEPS to make your decision, I was they had infantry, which nothing guys, but I just didn't want to be that guy. Artillery, they had cooks, medics. And then he asked me, hey, do you like the water? And I was like, is this the Navy? And he's like, no, it's the Army. Like, we have boats. And I was like, what, boats? He's like, yeah, man, I got 7 positions right now, man. You can go all over the world, Hawaii, Australia. And then he showed me this nice little brochure. It had this boat called the HSV, which was one of the high-speed vessels that I think the Navy owns them now, but they were like the high speed vessels that go really fast and stuff. And I was like, man, that looks awesome. So he's like, hey man, I only got 4 positions left, man. You better hurry up. I mean, I got 3 left. And then he's like, why don't you go think about it for 10 minutes? He's like, but you got to make your decision quickly. Anyways, so I just panicked and I was like, oh, put me in, I'll take it. I mean, I ended up being in the Army, and I transitioned into public affairs. And I know this is probably on your questions, but I ended up finding public affairs, and that's where I really gravitated in, and I really found my zone.
And bring it back to when you were talking about, the arts and things like that going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so funny because I'm a big believer if you stay focused on what your heart wants, your mission, like you put a target somewhere, and just like in the military, I mean, we have a target here, and all the efforts are focused on that, and we end up accomplishing that mission for the most part, right? And that's all the efforts, and that's the vision. And I think the military has allowed me to kind of really focus on that and understand how that system works. Some people believe in, what is it? What's the word?
Karma.
That too. But basically, when you have a vision and you believe in it so strongly, you stay locked in on that. And I think
manifesting.
Dude, I say it all the time. Yeah, manifestation, right? I'm a big believer in that. Of course, I believe in God as well. That's my number one. But manifestation, and once you lock into something that you really believe in, I always love the arts. Even when I was in the Army, I was kind of doing graphic design on the side. But that led me to opportunities. Doors were open, and I'm like, what's going on over there? Oh, they're hiring for that. Go volunteer. And it was like all these little things that led to public affairs later on. And then I ended up learning how to do video multimedia stuff. Best time I've ever had in the Army was when I joined public affairs. I got to do a bunch of cool stuff. So
sure. Was there anybody that helped kind of get you there? Any, mentors? Because obviously you were coming from watercraft and then over to public affairs. So it's a bit of a change, I would assume. And you probably needed some help and guidance and mentor to kind of get you.
I had a lot of great mentors in the Army, even till now. I got retired sergeant majors who always look out for me, which is awesome. The Army, the military, that's what we bring to the table, is the support system, no matter what, right? But I did have, in regards to public affairs, it was this, I was part of Army entertainment. I was a technician for U.S. Army Entertainment. Basically, they used to go around the globe and entertain soldiers. And there was a performer. She was public affairs. At the time, she was specialist Noga. But she had told me about it, and she's like, "Hey, you look like you would fit in. You know all the tech stuff. You know how to use cameras." So it was another soldier who just kind of introduced me to it. And then I saw someone in Korea while we were in Korea, as I was setting up all the equipment we were using, the audio visual stuff. There was this gentleman comes up to me, and he had a camera. It was AFN, and he's like, "Hey, can I interview you?" He interviewed me, and then I was like. He's like, yeah, so I'm going to edit this and then it should be on TV tomorrow. And I was like, oh man, so what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a soldier. I'm like, you're a soldier? He's like, yeah, I'm a PFC. And I was like, you're a PFC and you're going to go do all that? That's, I blew my mind. And I was like, he's like, yeah, I go to DINFO's Defense Information School. That's where I learned how to do this stuff. And then I work for a television station. So that, once I saw that, and then Noga talked about it, I knew that I wanted to go into that career field. It took me a while to get in because I had to do, at that time, you just didn't get clearances. You had to apply for them. So I had to get a clearance, and it took a while, but overall it just worked out, yeah.
Other than the clearances, then when you kind of made that transition, you got over into that side of the military, the Army specifically, what kind of struggles did you have right away in that transition within the Army to just another career path?
I think in general, struggles, and I'll just talk in general about the Army, transitioning from civilian going into the Army is you, in the beginning, you're kind of on your own, until you start to build that trust, circle of trust. The Army has good and bad leaders, good and bad people. There's always like one or two that are in the group that are just not, focused on doing the right thing. And so I think the biggest transition was just learning that even though we all wear the uniform, not everybody's out for your best interest. So you need to focus. And this is for those of you that are just joining or thinking about joining or in the military. It's who you surround yourselves. If you surround yourselves around like people that are positive role models, doing the right thing, they're physically fit, then you're going to be physically fit. You're going to be doing the right things. If you're hanging around with people that are just kind of partying all the time or, focusing on the weekend, then that's going to be your life. And in the beginning, that transition was a little bit, I had to figure that out. And then once I locked in, I met some really good leaders. They put me on track to where I need to be at. And so that was the biggest challenge, just knowing who to trust and, and understanding that there are people that are out here for your best interest and lock into those people.
For sure. So then once you kind of got your groove, you started locking in, you understand kind of your environment now within what you're working. Let's talk about the environments that the military then placed you outside of even the U.S. So Germany, I know there was some time in Afghanistan, even the Pentagon, that's still in the States, but that's a totally different world within there. So how did those different environments kind of shape you and make you to who and what you are today?
It's interesting. I always say, jokingly, I describe my military career as the life of Forrest Gump, because he got to do a bunch of crazy stuff. And as soon as I started in the watercraft field, and then I did Army entertainment for a year or two, and then I got to travel in regards to that. But then when I transitioned into public affairs, it was just another level of exposure to the Army. As a public affairs specialist at the time, they call it mass communication specialist now, but our job is to tell the Army story, or if you're working with the Department of Defense, you tell the story of the military. And a lot of us take that to heart because you got to remember, when we get deployed to Afghanistan, Germany, Korea, these are people's kids that are out there serving. And I met so many young soldiers that were out there doing things that, most adults would never get to experience, especially in Afghanistan. As you know, there's a lot of dangers out there. It's not a video game. And being out there and being able to record a piece of time for these soldiers, that's like the best thing that's part of this job. It's interesting because when I was in Afghanistan, I would always have my camera. I would be embedded with some of the units. And so the soldiers don't know me. They don't trust me. They don't know who I am. They just know you're they call you the combat camera guy, even though I'm public affairs, but that's fine. Two different MOSs. Well, they kind of merged now, but I'd be the camera guy and they didn't want to tell their story. And I was like, hey man, let me do an interview with you. It would be an infantry guy. And he's like, nah, I don't want to be in the front of the camera, sergeant. At the time I was staff sergeant. So I pull him to the side and I would say, hey, look, man, this is about the future, your legacy. Like, your kids will see this, your grandkids, and I just want to capture this moment. And I think once you paint that picture, they start to understand, and mom and dad get to see you. You don't know what's going to happen around the corner. So being part of that process was the most rewarding part in my job. I think the best time in my Army career was in Afghanistan, because as you know, if you're just training, your training gets kind of redundant, but when you're actually doing your job, it's very rewarding.
No, couldn't agree more. I didn't have kids at the time, but I'm very grateful for the individuals that were alongside us when we were out there, and they got some photos or action scenes that now I get to show my kids and they believe it's real. And
right.
So anyways, that's really awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Jose, we've talked a bit about your extensive military career. As we mentioned already, you're 4 days out. So the next chapter of your life has started. So it's probably still too early. I mean, I didn't spend as long as you did in, but I know when I got out, especially kind of getting away from the mindset of just the military, the routine, the chaos of maybe deployments and things like that, there's this transition period, and you're in it. But it'll probably change over the course of time. As of today, though, what do you hope for in this next chapter, and what are you seeking out after this? The military is kind of behind you now.
Oh, man, that's a kind of a deep question. I think it's difficult when you're getting out, because you built an identity of being Sergeant Ibarra, Master Sergeant Ibarra, or wearing the uniform, even just picking the right clothes to wear. Like, am I supposed to wear like what am I supposed to wear? You know, going through that. And I mean, at the end of the day, I hope that I find, you know, other veterans like yourself, just kind of picking their brain and helping them guide you. And as a matter of fact, I can speak to this. One of the VFW guys, Mr. McPherson, he was someone who helped me through the transition. Like, you know, as you know, there's so many things you need to do before you get out. You know, make sure you take care of your health. Make sure you're going to be covered in regards to whatever injuries you may have. And it's hard to pivot because we're so used to just embracing the suck and moving forward. And, you know, folks that are there during the TAP sessions, the transition programs, you know, I know you guys were in before I was, or got out before I did. But right now, currently, the system that they have, at least from my experience, those folks are dedicated. And so I hope I can meet other veterans like that and continue to kind of grow my network. I hope I can offer what they've offered to me. I was able to do a little bit of that in the Uber ride. There was a veteran that had a question in regards to, like, you know, when he served and in regards to, like, how can he get into the VA and things like that. You know, I referred him to another friend that's a veteran that has a network of folks that help veterans do that. So, I mean, it's already happening. I'm grateful for, you know, just how, you know, the universe lined up, God, whatever, you know, whatever you want to call it. I believe in God, so I call it God. But as long as you're doing the right thing and you got your focus, your mission in your head, and you have to know what you want to do. And I think sometimes you don't need necessarily know what you want to do. You got to figure it out, take a breather. The thing is that I kind of already knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to stay in the creative side, things that I'm good at. And Digital Recon came along and I was like, whoa, is this for real?
We understand now that you are into that next chapter, and lucky for Digital Recon, you've come on board. So I was just curious. I mean, I kind of have an inclination, you know, we sought you out, and, you know, your experience and knowledge in this space was very applicable. But what is it for you that resonated to, you know, make the commitment to come in and help out at Digital Recon?
Well, for one, and I'm just going to be real, it's not like everybody is calling you at the same time. So it was the first opportunity that was a serious offer. I did have another offer, you know, for the El Paso Police Department, which, you know, it might still be on the table. And there's like interview processes going on at the time. But it was the first, like, hey, we're committed. We're ready to take the next step, right? And as you and I talked, it's remote. So that was another plus. And then, of course, the mission, you know, the mission is something I'm passionate about, something that I know. You know, I'm a subject matter expert when it comes to, you know, multimedia, digital content, and then I continue to grow as, you know, but I have resources to kind of expand on that. So for me, I felt like, oh, this is perfect. And then the tech side of it too. Tech for me is like interesting. So just being able to, as I do research for some of our social media or maybe some of the projects that we're looking into, it's an interesting journey because I'm like learning stuff. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. As we were talking today about some of the systems in IT, like the, you know, cloud, or we're talking about all that stuff. It's interesting. So I knew that I didn't want to do something just to pay the bills. You know, at the end of the day, like I think it's in the next chapter in my life. I want to do something that I'm passionate about. Not to say the military wasn't a passion. It's just a different kind of passion.
Of course.
And this was like the perfect fit. So, and then you guys were, you know, I think you, the entire team, are super respectful. You guys, yourself, I mean, especially you, Brandon, you being a service member, a veteran, you know, like the worth that, you know, I bring. And maybe sometimes even more than what I know, you know, because I'm so used to being in the military and this is the civilian sector. And you guys saw something in me. So I'm like, and then I start to realize, hey, you know, I do have something that's marketable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great point here, is because we, as you said, we definitely see the worth. Everybody knows the value you get in a veteran. But what do you think, just from your side, you know, coming in, like what are some skills that'll just instantly translate from military into what you're doing now, even though we are still very close to military, right? It's probably actually a great transition because you're not fully getting away from the military like a light switch going on and off, but you're cruising in. So any skills that you think that would even, let's just say this wasn't even digital recon dealing with veterans, what are some skills you think that would just directly translate right away?
So I know the answer to this one. It's really easy. So in the military, sometimes we get assigned a task and you got to figure it out. You don't have time to, and I learned this the hard way in the military. Like sometimes you start asking like, well, how do you do this? And then your NCO ends up telling you, well, you know what? I'll just do it for you, you know, but you start to see how other NCOs maneuver, other leaders, like they start to build. If they don't know the answer, they start to do some research and kind of navigate and build something that, you know, they're confident with. Because sometimes you don't have all the directions. So you got to figure it out. You know, you understand that?
Yep.
And I think that skill translates.
Adapt, overcome.
You got to figure it out. You got to be flexible, adapt and overcome. You know, one of my favorite sayings that I learned how to say as I got older in the ranks is too easy. Even though we know it's not too easy.
Sure.
But you never want to be that person that says, oh, we can't do it because of this, because of that. Now you got to be
back to what you said earlier. It's manifesting.
You got to be reasonable too. Like, hey, that's not going to work because of this. But just because it's hard doesn't mean you can't have that same attitude. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think that's what's helping maneuver, especially, you know, something brand new for me is just kind of like, okay, figure it out, give it your best shot, present it, see what they think, and boom, you know, it's like magic. It just happens. And, you know, I think that's for me, the biggest thing I've gotten out of the military is just adapting, overcoming, maneuvering.
Sure. And I think that you can take that then a step further and applying that into leadership. Obviously, 20 years in, you went through the ranks. You know what leadership looks like more so than a lot of other individuals. How do you think that that's also going to translate outside of, you know, from the military now into the civilian world?
I mean, so leadership, there's different styles of leadership, first of all, right?
Sure.
The style of leadership that I've developed throughout the years to learning how it affects certain people and how what you say can either motivate somebody or help or maybe unmotivate them, like they don't want to be there.
Right.
So understanding that part of being a leader for me, the power of influence, right? Put yourself in people's shoes and how would they take what you say? Understanding that has helped tremendously because no matter, you know, people's experience, but I've always tried to put myself in other people's shoes and say, okay, how can I help them see my vision and what I'm trying to say in their language? So just that experience, because I'm going to tell you, when I was a specialist, I was in charge. I was the technical director for Army Entertainment, and I was in charge just tons of equipment, and we had to do it fast, rapidly. So I was kind of my NCOIC would be like, Ibarra, since I was a technical director, even though these other people outranked me, I had to be that voice. And I was honestly, I was kind of a jerk, you know? And people didn't like me, but I got the job done. My NCOIC would pat me on the back. Good job, Ibarra. But at the end of the day, some of the people didn't like that. They didn't like me being that person. They liked me as a person outside the job. They're like, dude, you're overdoing it. And as I grew older, you started to see leaders that were more calm and they had a lot of influence. They didn't have to yell. They just said something and people just gravitated towards that. And I said, man, I want to be like that. And there's been many challenges as I was growing up as a leader that other leaders that were above me would say, why? You should write them up. You should do this. You should do that. I'm like, yo, like, I'm going to be with you for 3 years. Let me take care of my crew and I'll deliver what you want, the product you want. You know, at the end of the day, I'm going to give you what you want. Let me handle it the way I do, because that's what I know. And so for me, just knowing that process and 20 years of experience, now getting into the civilian sector, I'm bringing the art of leadership, right? You could either be a leader that influences or a leader that scares somebody. So I want to be the influencer. So that's definitely been helpful in this career. As I transition. I mean, it's only 4 days, but I mean, I've been kind of working with you guys for a little bit, and in the corporate world, I see, like, especially virtually, you have to, especially through text, right? You have to really understand, how can somebody take that? What's their confirmation bias? Are they going to already feel some way about me because I said something earlier? Sure. And so it's just it's an art, Sure. So I learned a lot in the military, bringing it over to the civilian world.
Sure. Now, I know that obviously there's Digital Recon, and the whole purpose behind this is building that community. So kind of piggybacking off of, your experience in growing through the military, learning and growing as a leader and things like that, how, now that you kind of get into the civilian world and specifically into the IT space, what kind of networks or places or communities have you really found, or have there been any that you've kind of, got into that helped you transition, or do you see a lot of that out there?
Well, yes, I have found some communities. Again, part of the TAPS program. I want to give props to them. 100% helpful.
Sure.
Was it like that before? I don't know. All I know is what I'm going through.
Sure.
And at Fort Bliss, the way they do it, they're solid. 100% on board. Everybody's trying to help everybody. That organization, definitely. And then the VFW, of course, with their representative, Mr. McPherson, he's helped me out. And then I have older veterans who've already retired that work in the community at Fort Bliss. Like, I have a Sergeant Major Joseph Walter. He's always, looking out for me. Like, even because he works with Garrison, and we got to know each other, and he was just like my mentor there, and took care of me and said, hey, that's not the right way. That you should address that, or hey, maybe you need to, like, improve a little bit. I see your soldiers are not their uniforms are getting a little dusty. What's going on? You know what I mean? Sure. So it's still veteran organizations, maybe individuals, but those main organizations have helped me out. And that's the experience I've had so far. And then, of course, Digital Recon, it's a new chapter in my life, but even though, I'm part of the project, it still helped me tremendously.
Oh, and that's a good point, because, again, you're living it right now. So what are some things that you would even just hope for that you would find in these communities, or in these, IT networks, but veterans involved, both even professionally and personally? Like, what are some things that you think might be missing, or you haven't really seen, that could be of value to people that would, maybe hopefully come to Digital Recon and be able to get that?
That is a very good question, because me and my wife talk about it a lot. So my wife was, and this is not only for Army veterans, because it's for spouses too.
Yep.
So one of the things that we saw a lot, and thanks to all the people that are just trying to make a difference. But when we were she was trying to transition to IT, and she's in the medical field. But I said, hey man, it's your opportunity right now to transition, take advantage. So we found a program on Post that helps, with funding through the Syracuse program. They have all these organizations that help you do the testing and kind of get you through all the qualifications you need in regards to IT for the certifications. But then there's other organizations that are trying to help you with resumes and all that, which is great. I think it's still needed, because there's people out there in the career field. But one of the things that I wish we can see a little more is that these nonprofits or these organizations are aligned with companies that they can just be like, hey, so we're this organization. What we do is we connect you and we get your foot in the door. You know what I mean? Because there wasn't a lot of foot in the doors.
Sure.
Now, there are some companies, there are some organizations that do that, but a lot of the other ones that they were just kind of, let me send you to 4 different other resources that were other nonprofits.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't know if you've experienced that.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, everybody's doing the same thing.
I've equated it sometimes as, we have to pick up the phone sometimes, and we've got to call a big company. Yeah. We'll go through the customer service, and there's a lot of technology in that these days. And I find myself sometimes getting a little frustrated, because while technology is amazing and it's made our lives very easy, there is still room for improvement there. And, I had something where it was a loan, but the loan no longer exists. And the system, which just prompted me, hey, what's your loan number? And it's like representative. Yeah. And eventually the system caught on. I wanted to speak to a human.
Yeah.
But I say that and tell that story because I feel like that's what we hope that Digital Recon can be, right? Like, to your point, you get looped around and there's no foot in the door. It's, hey, well, you can go to this resource, and it's a website, and it's great, and it's got good information, but it doesn't always solve that or answer it. So the idea would hopefully be, and this is where Digital Recon is going, is for us to be that, hey, representative. And magically this human now is on the phone talking to you. But in Digital Recon, in this network, you're getting a real life person that's kind of answering some of those questions for you instead of pawning you maybe off to another website or something like that.
And I could see Digital Recon having those high level mentors are specific to IT.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of organizations, they'll connect you with a mentor, but that mentor, like for instance, me, public affairs, if I want to go find a public affairs mentor, there are organizations, but I have to find those.
Sure.
They're not specifically with veterans, even though there is the Public Affairs Association. I guess that's not a good example because we do have one. But what I'm saying is like for IT specifically,
sure.
My wife couldn't find anybody. They would find somebody who can tell you, like, you can go do that program, but they weren't really connected.
No, it's definitely, and you start getting into some things where a lot of this is about time and investment too, right? Life is short. We know that, especially from the military, how quickly things can go. And so when you're really in a situation and you're not sure what direction to go, and maybe it's, okay, I'm going to take this 4-month course, or maybe I'll take this 2-month course, or what's going to be better at the end of that, and what certification might actually help me quicker into my career path. And just being able to come into a community and be able to ask that question. And even just if it was a message through LinkedIn or something where someone could easily help you out, I think that would be the goal. And so in military or Digital Recon fashion, we're to our portion of our rapid fire.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so we'll go quick here and have some fun with it. First thing you miss about the Army?
You know, the first thing that came to my head is nothing. No, I mean, I just got out, so a little bit of, I'm getting used to it. It's like you're not in the Army anymore. So it's like so I don't know if it's missing it, but there's something missing.
Different.
But it also feels good.
Yeah, sure. Next chapter. Okay, cool. Well, this next one should be easier. Your favorite MRE? And for those who don't know, MRE, meal ready to eat.
Meal ready to eat, yeah. I don't know if it's favorite MRE, but I like the jalapeno cheese with crackers. Like, you give me that, I can eat that the whole entire time we're on the field.
Oh, okay, that is a good one. Germany or Korea?
Germany, for sure.
I agree on that.
Bavaria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gas or electric cars?
Electric.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite piece of gear that you secretly wish you kept?
I lost my assault pack, so I had to pay for it. But I wish I had the assault pack. It's a good backpack. That's the one. But again, something happened and I'm missing. I went to CIF. I had to pay for it.
I might know a guy. I'll get you on that. Okay. Your favorite unit you were with?
2nd Cavalry Regiment, toujours prêt, always ready.
Okay. If you could have lunch with one tech leader, who?
Of course, Elon.
Okay, that's a good one too. Cloud, AI, or cyber? I think I know the answer, but which excites you the most?
Oh, AI. It's definitely a game changer. If you're not using AI, you're kind of getting left behind. So definitely AI.
Sure. And on the AI note, do you think it will help humanity, or will it take over like Terminator and Skynet?
I mean, I hope it helps humanity. I think it's like anything that we discovered, to include, weapon systems. I mean, I think the people behind it will make the right decisions. And I think as humans, we all want to help each other, not destroy each other in general, even though we do make some big mistakes. And I think that same type of mindset that's behind the development, I think, is into play. So I'm confident that it might be in the middle, just like weapon systems, They're used for bad and good. I think it might be in the middle. Honestly, I think it's going to be more in the middle than anything. So
sure. Last question then.
Okay.
You've got somebody that's about to take the uniform off. They're transitioning into the civilian world. What piece of advice would you give them? Again, we've talked about it multiple times today, not to beat the dead horse, but you are transitioning. You are experiencing it now. And your short time that you've been doing this, what would you tell them, and what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask and be vulnerable. We're not used to, especially if you're like myself, 21 years in the military, we're supposed to know everything, but we don't. But don't be afraid to ask and lean on people that have experience, that have maybe walked in your shoes and are veterans, you know? I mean, I think veterans are one of the most helpful people that you can kind of gravitate towards because they have your experience. And then the other thing too, I would say is start early. They keep telling, I mean, I had 20 people, maybe 30 people tell me start early. And you think you're early enough, but you're not. I mean, you're still trying to catch up. The stress level will start to increase dramatically. I think that was one of the hardest times of my life is transitioning out of the Army because, you know, it's retirement for me, but that's not going to pay the bills. The lifestyle that we live right now, it wouldn't make it, you know. My wife had to get a job as a kind of like a safety net because I was like, hey, I think, but I don't know. How do these benefits kick in? What time do they kick in? You know, there's a gap. I heard it's 3 months. I heard it's 1 month. There's so much information out there from other people's experiences. So you definitely need to start early, start doing your research. I think I've heard stories of like even some, you know, as you become more senior, you're still committed to the mission and you're like, I don't need to go to TAPS because we got this FTX coming up or we got this, mission. I need to get all the soldiers ready. Like, bro, guess what? 3 months are going to pass and guess who they're not going to know who did what? You're going to be... the people that were there aren't even going to be there anymore. They're going to be at another location. Like life goes on. The military keeps rolling along. So you need to take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of your health first and foremost, your family. Those are the priorities you should be focusing on because that's going to be your next chapter. So definitely just start early, connect with networks that are there to help veterans.
Awesome. Outstanding.
Yeah.
Jose, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate the time today.
Brother. Thank you.
Chatting with veterans and doing this is what all of this is about.
Anytime.
For everybody watching, we'll do the whole cliche, like and subscribe. No, but in all truth, hopefully this the content here and the conversations we're having, these real life stories of people, getting into tech from the military resonates with all of you. That's what this whole purpose is. So you can go to digitalrecon.us to register if you'd like to be. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. We're putting out content, just trying to provide value.
X.
Yep, X as well. They'll also be down the road. We're going to start hosting events as this evolves and we start building a community. We're going to want to bring veterans together in person. So there's a lot coming on the horizon, but we hope that these conversations like this with Jose, and then who can forget Florent Groberg, the Medal of Honor recipient.
Absolutely.
So we hope this has been valuable for all of you and really hope you keep joining us over our journey. Thank you. Every veteran's journey after service is unique, but you don't have to do it alone. Digital Recon connects you with peers, mentors, and resources to navigate the next chapter with confidence. Follow along, get inspired, and join the conversation. Share your story with a community that truly understands your experience.